Hey guys, welcome back. So let's create the system to import the displacement map and displace this geometry. And we have this grid. This is what we're going to be using for the render. It's 5 kilometer square, and the idea is we're going to displace this at render time. But I want to use a smaller grid just to visualize this. And as I said, we need UV coordinate on this geometry, and the UV coordinate value, if we go up, we're going to create one UV coordinate, and the grid scale is this is what we're going to be using to set the UV coordinate, or to say, okay, I want to project this as the UV coordinate, and then that's going to give us the layer information, or the UV coordinate for the base layer. So let's create a UV project node. I'm going to set it to a point. I need the UV coordinate to be at the point level, and then I'm going to set this to the scale to 500 by 500, and let's take a look. And right now it's projecting it this way, so we need to rotate it on the x-axis 90 degree. And this is the scale of our grid. This is what we need. And here from 0 to 1, this is where the grid is going to be placed, and then everything else is going to be tiled, so it will automatically be copied. I'm going to copy this, and if we look at this grid now, it should fit perfectly. So this is our preview, one tile preview, and this is the unlimited tile preview for the rendering. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now for the other maps, for the mid and large, this UV information works perfectly for this size, but it does not work for the mid. And what we need for the mid is this. We need to say 200 by 200, and this needs to be 200 as well. So now we have a perfect UV coordinate for this grid scale, but we don't want to create multiple UVs. We want to create one of them that works for the largest grid, and then process the UV coordinates so that it works for all the other planes. And the relation between 500 and the mid scale, the mid maps, are 200. So if we divide 500 by 200, it's 2.5. So if we multiply the UV coordinate by 2.5, we're gonna get the UV information needed to tile the mid maps. For the small maps, we need to divide 500 by 125. That's the scale. So the ratio is 4. We need to divide these maps by 4. So if we go here, so this one is 125. So that's the ratio that we're going to use. But let me first import the first map and get our first displacement going, so we get a better understanding of this. Let's create a point vol and call this ocean large disp. And let's dive inside. I'm going to create a color map node. We need a vector to float, so I'm going to create a vector to float node, or a vector to float. Vector to float. And I'm going to take the UV coordinate, and that's what I need. Now the map, I'm going to export, and let's take a look at the result. So this is the default image, and let's go up. I'm going to bookmark this as 1, and I'm going to bookmark this control 1 so I can switch between back and forth quickly. Pardon me. And let's copy the layer 1. Okay, let's go inside. Sorry, I didn't use the shortcut. Okay, so that's our map, and let's take a look. This is our ocean displacement baked in. Now all we have to do is we want to add this to the color map, but not the color. We want to offset the points, and that's our first ocean. That's it. The normal maps, or the normal displacement, we add it to the point position, and it gives us the result that we want. That's how it works. It's very, very simple. And the next thing is we want to create some masks to blend between the two large maps. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna switch to this grid because this is what I want to render finally. So if I tweak a noise that is very large, we may be able to see a small white dot here, white spot, but then we don't know how it's going to look like everywhere else. So for that we're going to use this grid. We're going to use the main one. So let's create a point VOP, call this noise large map, and I'm going to connect this, and let's dive inside. And I'm going to create a noise, connect this to the point position, and plug it into the color, and let's make sure we clamp the result so it goes between 0 and 1, and I'm gonna bind export this as ocean large mask. Ocean large mask, and let's go up, and this is our noise pattern, so let's increase this so it's better to see. And let's expose all these options so we can tweak it better. Okay, I'm gonna copy this, paste relative reference, and I'm gonna set this to 0.015, and that's our noise pattern. Let's see, 0.5, no, 1.5. And I'm gonna lower the roughness. I don't need the details. I don't need it to be very detailed. And let's set this. Let me delete this. I want to try something. It doesn't have any difference. Okay. So this is our ocean mask, and if we apply the same thing here, you see it's only a small fragment, so it's hard for us to understand how it's going to mix the maps. But this is what we're going to use in the render. We can plug it here and get a visualizer. So let's plug the map, and let's make sure we increase the amplitude to 10, and it will clamp between 0 and 1. And then now this is our first map. I'm going to copy this, and let's go up and change this to layer 2. I'm going to use this information to mix between this and this, and let's add this, and I'm gonna bind import that ocean large mask and use that as the bias, and we don't need the coloration preview. Okay, so this is for one grid, and let's try switch. Let's see. Oh, the map, sorry. So here I need to change this to a different name. So large map 2. And this is 1. Okay, so let's try again. This is one map, you see, and then this is mixing two maps, and this is the main ingredient for breaking up any tiling issues, as well as adding realism. Now the effect where we talked about doing a wind where it changes the displacement amount, we can create a noise and use that as a global multiplier, or we can mess with these masks. For example, I can say that the second map is now a quarter of what it is. So I can set this to 0.25. Now see, I'm getting these bold areas, or areas that have less displacement. So I can lower that, and this is how it will look like. And this is a very easy way to get that effect if we wanted to. Okay, so let's do this. So this ocean preview is working on the small grid. Let's take a look at the large grid, and let's disable the preview. So obviously we don't have enough details, so that's the trick with rendering this. We're going to be able to get a lot of details, but let's try and push it. Maybe 2K will give us some indication. yeah, it works. So this is with the noise mask. Let's disable this. Take a look and enable it. So there is variation, but it's not the noise. Yeah, I need to increase this to 10. So if we disable this, we should see a huge difference in the ocean. Now see that the horizon line is buzzing. Come on. I'm gonna increase, see this, I'm gonna increase the sampling in the viewport, and now it's much better. So this is how our ocean is going to look like with two maps. So you can see already the breakups and the variation here, and it's going to hold up pretty well at this level. And we can always tweak the noise easily, and that was going to allow us to get more variation as well. Okay, so let's continue. Now we have the displacement for the large one, and we made the noise. Now the next thing, I want to create another noise map, and I'm gonna call this noise mid map because I want to use a different noise pattern for the mid. So I'm gonna call this ocean mid mask, and I'm gonna increase the frequency so it has more repetition. And let's preview this. So this is on a small grid. We can preview it on a large grid, and you can see a lot more. There is a lot more variation, and this is going to work pretty well for the mid-sized map. Okay, so for the displacement, we have ocean large. It's working, and let's turn off the color, and let's copy this. Call this ocean mid disp, and here we want to read those two. So let's go to the maps, and I want this one, first one, and then the second one, and all we have to do is change this to read the mid. Now if we turn on the cooking, let's turn the large maps on. This is our mid-res maps working, and the only thing that is missing at the moment is the scale, because we created the UV coordinate based on this. We don't want that. We want them to have a value based on 200. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a multiply node, and I'm gonna promote this, and the multiplier we said is 2.5. 500 divided by 200 is 2.5. And to even help break this up and break the layers between the various maps, I'm gonna add an offset. So I'm gonna use an add node. I'm gonna promote this. I'm gonna add an offset of 1.25, and this is gonna shift the maps. And now we're layering the mid maps correctly. And if I increase this even higher, let's copy this, set it to 2K. And let's disable this. So let me disable the ocean large. This is only the mid, and it's been mixed with the noise. You can see the variation happening. And let's introduce the large, turn off the mid, and you can see how we're adding things. Okay, the last thing, I'm gonna copy this, so we're almost done, and I'm gonna call this small disp. Gonna dive inside, and this one doesn't have any mixing, it's just one map. So let's delete this, And let's go up. And I'm gonna call it, I believe it's called small. Yep. And let's change this to $F4 as well. So let's disable all of this, and now we have the small, but we still have the same problem with the scale, because this is set to 125 grid scale. So I'm going to set this to 4 to give it the proper tiling, and then this offset I'm going to lower it to 0.125. And now if I turn them all on, this is our final ocean. Let's turn off the small maps, on and off. You can see the you can see the resolution. I'm gonna do a test, maybe it crashed, maybe not. Let's do a 4K. It's gonna be 16 million points. And we're gonna be able to see, yep. So we have an insane amount of, we could go higher, but this is showing us a high-res ocean, and this is it's identical to our displacement and how we're going to do it at render time. And that's it. This is for one section, this is for one grid. And now, because of the way the tiling works, we're going to be able to just switch this, and it's going to work perfectly. Now we're not going to do this at render time. We're not going to pass the displaced geometry to render. We're only going to pass this. Let me delete this. So we need the two attributes for the noise creation, and that's it. This is what we're going to pass to the render: a flat grid with 128 and 128, and the noise patterns. That's it. The two attributes: ocean large mask, ocean mid mask, and a UV coordinate. And we're going to do the same thing here at render time. And with the displacement, we can subdivide this to capture all the details that we need. Now, one last thing that's going to help even further with breaking up the tiles and everything. Even with this technique, we're still gonna get tiles. That's gonna happen. So another thing, as a last resort, what I'm gonna do is distort this grid. I'm gonna create a point VOP, call this distortion, and let's dive inside. I'm gonna create a noise. And I'm gonna add this noise. And remember, because we did the UV creation when the grid is like this, if we add deformation now, the UV coordinate will not change. We're just gonna change the points of the geometry. And I'm gonna add this noise. Let's take a look. Let's increase this to 10. I'm gonna set this is a 3D noise, and let's lower the frequency to 0.035, 0.035, 0.035, just to get distortion. See that wiggly effect? I'm going to lower the roughness, so it's just a nice smooth distortion, and I'm going to lower this to 2. But now we're changing everything, and we don't want to change the y component. So I'm going to do a vector to float, and I'm going to get the x and z component from this, and I'm going to get the y component from the original position, and I'm going to set this, I'm going to create a new vector. So float to vector, and this is my original y position, and I need the new x and z. And now if we connect this, you see we're just distorting it like this. And this is going to help drastically break up the pattern in the horizon. It's not going to be visible now, even if I do the displacement, because we don't have any resolution. But this is like another trick. Okay, that's it. That's pretty much it for preparing the grid. And we have all the maps cached to disk. We have one frame, and now we're going to start doing the same thing in Redshift. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.